Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is LaSalma Ray from Now Novel, and today I'm going to be interviewing one of our very own coaches, Hedi Lampert. Hedi is a published author and does multiple other things such as voiceover work, public speaking, and copy editing. I hope you enjoy getting to know her today. Hi, Hedi. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Oh, that's a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
I'm so grateful that you're here today. You are someone, when I went on your website, you're extremely accomplished. You have so many things that you do. But I just wanted to ask specifically, what is your role at Now Novel?
At Now Novel, I'm a coach and I facilitate my sessions to suit each writer and their particular needs in terms of whatever they're writing or trying to achieve.
And what do you feel is the most rewarding aspect of coaching for both up-and-coming and experienced writers?
There are numerous penny-dropping moments where a student will say, oh, that's made things so much clearer. And, often when you're deep in that writing process, you can't see the wood for the trees, and you often need an external person to come in and just say, well, hang on, perhaps you should move this there, or you're not really, maybe we can look at this as a focal point. Have you thought of that? There are numerous times when a student will say, oh, that has helped so much. And for me, nothing is kind of more rewarding, but it's also fun to brainstorm. I get involved with all the plots, and we brainstorm, and suddenly ideas come, and I don't know where they come from, but it certainly inspires me because it triggers so much creativity in me, and I really love that.
And your novel, The Trouble with My Aunt, is based on real events. Could you elaborate on what the story is about and what inspired you to write it?
Yes, actually, I've got that here. Actually, it is about my aunt who suffered from a condition called Fragile X, which most people don't really know what that is unless you happen to be in the medical field or the field of genetics. But it's essentially inspired by my mother's experience of growing up with a mentally challenged person in a time when very little or nothing was known about it, and it was a struggle. Today there are support groups, there's so much information online. So I was very influenced by obviously my mother's experience and my grandmother's experience, and quite a long time ago, in fact, going back to about 2004, 2005, when I was part of a writing group, and we were doing free writing about ourselves. And I suddenly realized, wow, I've got a story to write. It's about my own family. But I wrote it in a fictional form using a lot of what had happened, because a lot of the stuff you just couldn't make up, even though it might seem fictional upon reading, but it's all, a lot of it is true. And then I worked in fictional form with different time periods and changing characters and substituting this for that, and just worked with a process that ultimately resulted in this book.
Amazing. Could you show us the book again? The cover is beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, it's beautiful. And would you say that writing this novel was a cathartic experience for you, or was it a very challenging experience for you?
It was a wonderful experience in that, first of all, it took me about 15 years to finally get my act together. So when my students say to me, oh, but I need to get it done by this time, and they've just given me the first draft. It takes a long time. I'm not saying I sat and wrote for 15 years, but it was a process of over 15 years of writing bits, writing, not writing, working, being a mother. And it was only really in 2019 that I gave, or was it 2017? Anyway, I gave myself 2 months off work, freelancing, whatever, and I just said, I'm going to write this book now. And I finally sat down and actually wrote it. And those 2 months were amazing because I was just dedicated. I'd get up in the morning, I'd go and do some dancing, come back, make French toast, sit upstairs with my blanket and my dog, who's there. She was my companion. and just write all day. And it was really wonderful.
What would your three main tips be for writers who are wishing to write stories based on their own lives and experiences?
Well, I think that is honestly one of the most wonderful things to be able to do. If you have a story to tell, to be able to actually delve into what is authentic and express it with your own voice is first of all the most wonderful thing you could do. However, that doesn't come without a certain amount of fear, because most of the time people will say, but what about the people who I'm writing about? Won't people be insulted? Won't people be upset? How am I going to get around that? How do I say what I need to say? Well, I can't give you the answer to that, because pretty much everybody who I wrote about had died, and that did, I'm sorry, but it made it a lot easier. So there is always that, but we can, we work through that in the coaching process. So the answer to your question is be brave. Really, like run with the wild dogs, and just go for it, and see what happens. Tell your story, because I once saw a cartoon that was about a writer, and it was kind of, if this book doesn't come out on paper, he was visiting a doctor's office. He said, if this book doesn't come out on paper, it's going to have to be surgically removed. So, sometimes you really have to tell a story. Tell it. Just tell it.
The book that you co-authored with property CEO Mike Kriev, With My Head Held High, is another story of real life experiences. Could you again elaborate on the story and how the co-authoring process differs from being a solo author?
The story is about Mike's struggle with ADD growing up, and how he found ways to get around it, which involved always getting help from friends. So literally from grade 1, he'd make sure he was sitting next to the brightest kid in the class, and he got through school kind of like that. And to this day, his greatest strength is that he knows how to employ the right people. And that has been the success of his business. In fact, I still work with him like 10, 15 years later. I edit his property magazine, and I did a lot of their writing for many years for the real estate company. But working with him was, I suppose, easier for me, because I would say to him, okay, tell me your story. And then he'd sort of just give me a bit of vague stuff. And it was actually about knowing how to ask the right questions to draw stuff out of him. People who don't write and who are not used to describing or observing really need someone to interview them and bring it out. So I had years of experience in terms of interviewing, because I've worked in magazine journalism for decades. And I used those skills to bring stuff out of him. And then I kind of imagined that I was this little school child, and how it would be walking past or running past the school toilets on the way back after break, and that dreadful smell from that weird disinfectant pink soap, and the sound of school shoes on the corridor floors. And so I just wrote the way I would feel. And then I actually said to him, okay, so would you say this was your experience in terms of that? And he was like, oh my God, that's absolutely it. How did you know? Well, it was just kind of being observant and putting myself in there. I'm not saying that I made up his experiences. He told me his experiences, and I just put them into a very readable form. The book was very short because of his ADD. He was too impatient, and he wanted it published immediately. So it's a very thin little book that you can read in virtually an afternoon. So yeah, it was fun. It was also fun, but certainly writing my own story was a lot more satisfying.
And did you always feel like you wanted to be a novelist? Because you are someone who does many, many other things. Did you always feel like, okay, I actually, along with my many other skills, I want to publish a novel?
Yes. I think I got my first writing prize when I was 8. It was an essay about my mom. Weirdly enough, this book is very much about my mother, and dedicated to her. And I said, I'm going to get this book published I'm going to finish this book in my 50s. And so that is what I did. Uh, so, yeah, when I was asked a question, why do you write? And I said, because it's my destiny. So I do, writing is one of my loves. It's something I probably define myself as a writer, but as you say, I also do many other things.
Not only are you a published author, but you pursue photography, voiceover work, copywriting, and many more things. And from your experience, what are 3 tips or just a few tips that you can give other multi-talented writers who wish to pursue multiple vocations?
Okay, so if you want to do lots of things, you need to have your head on straight. You need to make lists and you need to keep a diary because otherwise you're not going to get it done. That's number one. Number two, if you are going to do everything at once, then don't feel bad about it. Don't let people say, well, wouldn't it be better if you focused on one thing? Well, of course it would be better if you focused on one thing, but that's not the way you are. You've got lots of different facets. Like a diamond, you're going to shine in all sorts of different lights. Go for it, do it. Your life will be richer for it, and I do believe your writing will be richer for it. The third thing would be embrace deadlines. Because when you're that busy, the only way you're going to get things done is with structure and deadline. And I just think deadlines galvanize us to glory, so don't be scared of them.
Okay, so your 3 tips would be make sure that you're organized, make those lists, embrace those multiple things that you're good at, and then also embrace deadlines to keep you focused.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And what would your advice be to a new writer who struggles with self-doubt?
Read and read and read and read. The more you read, the better your writing becomes, the less you're going to doubt yourself. You're doubting yourself if somehow you feel your writing's not good enough. You'll know your writing's good when you actually are putting things down that when you read, they don't make you cringe. Obviously, other people are going to have different opinions. And I think that if you're not, you don't always have to do long reading. You know, I train myself, okay, I was always into writing, and English at school was a very good subject for me, and I loved reading from the minute I could read. But um, I trained myself to write well for publishing purposes by, in those, going back all that time, reading really good consumer magazines. I would suggest actually reading essays in the New Yorker and other really revered current publications, and look at the kind of work that is being published there. Those are the kind of standards that I would advise a young writer to strive for. Not stuff that you're finding online that is just somebody's blog. I'm not saying there aren't good blogs, but a lot of stuff is really bad. And SEO writing, and I know this because I'm also an SEO writer, and it's my worst because the grammar is so bad. You have to start sentences with and, you have to start sentences because Google requires a whole bunch of things for you to actually get good rankings, but it's not good writing. So yeah, go for stuff that is highbrow, and read and read and read.
Lastly, I just wanted to ask, will you be releasing any new work in future?
I would love to, but I still need to give The Trouble with My Aunt legs. It was published just before lockdown, literally February, March 2020. And all my book launches had to be cancelled. All my literary festival appearances were, because all those festivals were cancelled. So it was frustrating and heartbreaking. I've done some online sales. There have been some bookshop sales following interviews on radio and in the press, and it's got, whoever has read it, I've received amazing reviews and lots of 5-star reviews on goodreads.com, but I'm nowhere near any kind of point that I want to be in terms of book sales. So I still have so much energy to give this particular child and get it out into the world before I can even think of something else. When I'm teaching and coaching, I often think, I wish I was writing again. But I'm not ready to. But hopefully one day there will be another book for sure.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I'm so sorry to hear about everything now that's happened with COVID.
Yeah, it's. But you know, it gave us different opportunities, and that's the way we have to look at it.
Mm. But thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today.
It's a
And thank you
pleasure.
so much. I feel like everyone is going to feel like they know you just a little bit more. And I'm looking forward to seeing new work, but also I actually really want to purchase your book. With
Oh,
all
please
of
do.
my heart.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. It's got a lot of things to relate to in terms of South African stuff, but also in terms of it's a fun read, I think, and it's got interesting genetic stuff too.
Mm.
So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much.